Your mom used to make cinnamon buns. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
You'd bring them home from Sault Ste.
You would
Marie.
crush the whole rack. That was awesome. I'd be all excited. Thank you very much. Oh my God, I forgot about
By the
that.
time you
I'm
wake
trying
up in the morning, they'd be gone.
be a jug of milk gone, right? You crush that whole thing. I'm wondering when the last time my mom made cinnamon rolls.
Yeah.
It's been a long time. What you learn about Pete is he's a good man. We started our career together almost accidentally, had absolutely no idea what we were doing, and ended up in the National League.
I went back to my room when I knew we were doing this, and I was thinking about the different roles we've had. We were teammates in Windsor.
Yep.
You were my captain. Then I played for you, when you
Right.
coached.
Oh, that's right, too. You were the
First
captain.
coaching job, yeah. Then you were my
Landlord.
which is a whole story. Then you were my roommate, groomsman, godfather to one of my kids.
And like at no point in time do you think there's a career path in that, right? You're going to law school. I'm an assistant coach of a junior hockey team.
Yeah.
I was making $150 a week,
Yeah.
which was pretty good. I thought I had it covered.
Yeah.
And then things just took off. Like,
Had that beautiful car.
did you like that? 1984 Reliant K car. That thing was beauty.
Yeah.
The things that you were happy. I remember being happy in that car. Like
Yeah.
life was good. I had a car that ran.
Yeah.
The house, we don't need to talk about the rat trap. I drove by there.
Yeah.
We were in Windsor. They redid it.
Did they?
You'll be happy to know they redid it, yeah.
Yeah.
But it was a good life, but a freakishly unusual incubator for us. Gravy,
Adam Graves, yeah.
that's David Haas.
Yeah. Ron Jones.
Jonesy, Daryl, Feather, Chewy.
Yeah.
Talk to Chewy every once in a while. Benny, Darren,
Kelly Kane.
Kelly Kane,
Paul Wilkinson.
Wilkinson,
JP
JP Gorley, Jamie Allen, Hardley.
Yeah.
From
Hyatt,
Wheatley.
Brad Hyatt.
Brad Hyatt from Wheatley, Jim Revenberg, KJ White,
Mike
Mike
Wolak.
Wolak.
I was thinking about this the other day. You and I, we went on vacation. So we went to the Memorial Cup with Windsor. Won the OHL championship. Went to the Memorial Cup, lost, and we decided we were going to go on vacation at the end of the season.
Yeah, I'm not sure which vacation we're going with here, so,
So
I'm sweating.
I got my uncle's
oh,
RV.
yes, you did.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
there was 5 of us and drove to Florida. And the thing broke down every state we hit, and every state we hit was a dry state, so we couldn't refill.
I was 21. Glenn Featherstone, Ron
Yeah.
Jones,
Adam Graves.
me and you.
Yeah,
Every time I hear Eric Church's Talladega,
Yeah.
4-ball tires, I think of us rolling down the road. We probably had to combine $300 in that,
Yeah.
and we were going for like 10 days.
we had no idea where we were going.
Oh,
Yeah,
ended up at Wolf Paymont's
yeah,
hotel. I think they charged us $40 a night or something like that.
Yeah.
That was a lot.
and I returned that thing to my uncle. I don't know how many thousands of dollars of damage was done.
Well, at
to
one
it.
point, who ripped the roof off? Who ripped the
Yeah.
top part, the
So-
vent off the roof?
So we pulled into a motel at
Yeah.
the time, and they had those concrete kind
Yeah.
of overpasses you'd pull in to check in.
Who was driving?
And there was I think Glenn Featherstone.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, and
Ripped it right off.
we didn't know the height thing, so we
drive
pull
as
under,
fast as you
just
can.
about took the whole roof off the thing.
So I'm picking on Feather. I did the exact same thing in my van 2 years ago at the Rankin Sunrise.
Yeah,
You know, the big yellow vent. Well, you drive into the place that says 10'6".
yeah.
Well, then there's another one that says 8'6", but you just assume they're the same size. Rip the air conditioner right off the top of it. Yeah. Some things don't
Maybe
change.
your eye depth perception thing.
It's coming to that at some point. The shots were coming out. My dad was fairly wired into hockey, and school was a big thing for him, so I had to do my grade 11 and 12 before I could play junior. And then that summer, Mr. Kermanis bought the team in CompuWare, took it over. He said, okay, you can play for Windsor if they draft you. So then they drafted me. Like, nobody had called. I had no connection to them. And so Jimmy drafts us, and then you and I are sitting in the locker room, and probably, you know, top 2 or 3 junior hockey programs in Canada the minute they bought it.
Yeah,
They
from one of the worst programs
It
in
was-
Canada to one of the
What-
best.
they weren't on the list, and
overnight,
they were
yeah.
low. And that was my dad's hometown. He didn't want me to go play there because
Yeah.
it was rough, right?
Yeah,
And then we get there, and then we get Tom Webster as a head coach.
Yeah.
He's an NHL guy. Tommy Webster,
Yeah.
the late Tommy Webster,
great man.
because
yeah.
as the coaching part of it,
yeah,
he was, for me, my first coach.
yeah.
The guy who took me under his wing, and I coached with him.
And he's probably the first guy that you looked at and said, you know what, that could be a cool job to
That's
do
a
that.
good way. Yeah,
You know?
you
'Cause
had
it-
respect for him,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, he'd have
Yeah,
you to
that's
his
what-
house for dinner, and
Yeah.
you know what? It was probably the first time, at least across my mind, you know what? Hey, like he's got a pretty good life coaching. You know, he's
Yeah.
had a great impact
That's a
on a lot
really
of
good
young
point.
people, and so
I'm sorry we didn't mention him enough.
yeah.
There's me and Jimmy. Jimmy Rutherford's the GM. Mr. Kermanis put a lot of money into that program. And so our normal for what junior hockey should be, more for you than me, because I had a year before the full transition, before Tommy came in.
Right.
But when you and Adam Graves and all those guys come in,
Yeah.
it's a really well, everybody goes to
was
school.
It was
the
run
land.
like an NHL team.
Right.
Yeah.
And Jim Rutherford's probably, from a career point of view, the single most important guy for both of us.
For both of us. Unbelievable, and just the good fortune of getting drafted
Yeah.
to a place like that at that time. You know, it's funny how
Yeah.
crossroads in your life. You were older, you were the captain of the team, but you had in the previous year lost your vision, right? You were
In both eyes, yeah. Based on the way I passed. Yeah, I heard that. I
that
heard
was
that.
the reason why you broke out the way you did at your own end.
So I knew the glass was somewhere.
People don't know that was the reason Visors came in.
Yeah,
Was basically
JP
your
Gorley
injury.
was the other guy though,
Yeah.
and there was another guy up in Sudbury. All three guys lost part of their vision.
That had happened the previous year. I came in, and you know, you had an option of retiring and taking insurance money and going to school.
It was a lot too, like for back then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or continuing trying to play with one eye, and you stayed in the game and played. You know.
It's just lucky. It was my dad. I actually went home, and I went back to school, and I spent 3 days at school in Sault Ste. Marie, and I was miserable. I said, I don't want to be here. I want to play hockey. And so my dad said, but you'd forfeit the money.
Yeah.
And I knew it wasn't. I mean, at that point, I knew there was also a talent injury that I suffered somewhere because I knew I wasn't good enough to play. And he just said, you know what, don't ever do anything for money. And I think that had a big impact on the way I viewed things.
Yeah. If you quit at that point and go to school, you're not
No.
coaching now. You're not doing
No.
what you do now.
No, none of those things happen. And the same with you, right? Like, I don't think when you came back from Milwaukee, you were in Milwaukee, right?
Yeah.
At that point, you come back, you get into law school. It wasn't high on your list to be an assistant coach of a junior hockey team. It was more of
No.
a time burner for you, something else to do.
Yeah.
And then, 2 years later, you're running the entire program.
I got drafted by the Leafs. I got traded my last year in junior to Vancouver, signed a pro
Yeah.
contract, played a couple of years in the minors, and then that summer my NHL contract ran out. I got into law school and moved.
Right.
You and I moved back in together, and
Nicer place.
nicer place. Yeah, we were up,
Living high off the hog at that
We were
point.
upstairs at a house. The place was all wood.
Yeah.
Did you get the head coaching job in August, or
Yeah.
it was late?
It was late that year.
And
And I needed an assistant.
needed an
I was
assistant.
jammed. I was just all those things
Yeah.
kind of come together.
Yeah,
And
I was living with you and going to law
Right.
school, and I said, well, listen, I can
Yeah.
help you out, really, until you found a full-time guy, or
I don't
know,
think you ever
did.
missed a practice.
No.
How did
no.
you pass?
I don't know. My marks.
You got through. There's a lot of common sense that goes through those law degrees. You got to work on those.
Yeah, but you're right. I don't, you know, and at the time, people don't realize that was a two-man show. I mean, the first year Jimmy was still there.
Yeah.
Rutherford and you and I were coaching, but then Jimmy left for Hartford,
Yeah.
and it was just you and I running everything.
Yeah.
Scheduling, buses, hotels, you know.
Do you remember that driving home from that schedule? So somebody asked me a question, what's the difference between you and Pete? I said, Pete makes the decision and doesn't bother him. I agonize over it. So we're at the scheduling meeting. It was like the worst schedule in the history of the world. And I ended up with 4 games in 3.5 days. One started in Sault Ste. Marie and ended up in Newmarket. And I'm in the car, you're driving. And I'm going, this is the worst schedule in the history of the Ontario Hockey League. And you're like, don't worry about it. We're going to be fine. That was kind of, we went 7 and 8 points that trip.
Yeah.
That's
And
the difference
what
between
people
you and-
don't realize, you know, me and you were sitting in that scheduling meeting. You're 26, I'm 25.
Oh, and they knew it.
And there's
The
not,
knives were out.
there's not, and all these old grizzled veterans in
Yeah.
there that are, you know, have done this their whole life
Yeah.
that just
Thank God for Dave Branch.
took heavy advantage of us. You know what?
He saved us.
He did save us, and it's funny you mentioned that name because he retired this year. You know, I think he belongs in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
So far ahead of his time on everything, safety,
Yeah. Concussions,
rules, games,
all of that.
You know, and but you know, talk about providing a place where one you could develop as a player, but for us develop as coaches. You know, in a great environment in that league.
I think you look back, and I'm speaking out of turn. One of the best things that he did is he found owners like Pete Kermanis
Yeah.
that they're not trying to make money on the kids. They love the game. Pete had an entire history of player development there. Hundreds of kids played in the NHL, probably thousands benefited from that program. Found guys like that to come in. It wasn't a shoestring budget.
Yeah.
You know, we were the first team that had pattern sticks.
Yeah.
Do you remember that? I come back from pro camp. Tommy Webster's ordered my pattern stick. The blade on it's that long and that wide. It's just a small goalie stick. You need as much blade as you can get on the ice. That's what he said. I think about it a whole lot because Mr. Kermanis came to the Cup Day. He had his 4 boys with him, and he's walking around, find his name on the cup, right, to show his young boys. Think about the effect that guy had on our life.
Yeah.
Out of the blue,
Yeah.
right? Buys the team.
Yeah.
My first year, you're there. The banquet at the end of the year, you go to the Memorial Cup final, we lose out. He comes over to the table, and I had coached for half a year that year, and he says, did you enjoy it? I said, you know what, Pete, I really did. I'd like to try this coaching. And he said, you'll have a job as long as you want it. And I worked for the man for the next 17 years.
Yeah.
Like,
Amazing.
Like amazing the impact that he's had.
Yeah. And Jimmy Rutherford too. You know, I think Jimmy being able to recognize, you know, guys that were playing for him as players that he thought, you know, could stay in the game and play a role in the game, whether it was management or coaching. And I remember when you hired me, so I'm in law school, I'd never coached a game in my life, just finished playing. And I said to Jimmy, I said, I've never coached a game, I've never run a practice. And he said, oh, don't worry about it, you'll pick it up, you'll be fine. And you know, he was right. I mean, you know, if you don't have somebody like that, a mentor like that, with that kind of patience and experience, that, you know.
I can't tell you the number of times that I've acted on a piece of advice Jim Rutherford gave me 35 years ago. If I just listened to him. You're stubborn and you're young and you're gonna do it. Paul, you don't always have to take your goalie out after a loss. You can take him out after he wins a game too. Why would I do that? We just won, he's hot, I gotta play him. And then, you know, Sergei Bobrovsky wins his 400 the other night, fastest goalie in the history of the NHL to get to 400, and he doesn't play the next game. And I'm thinking, if I had listened to that man, what Jimmy was great at is even if he was going to give you a shot, if he had, and sometimes it was serious, and you would walk away from the meeting feeling good about yourself.
Yeah.
Like it's a gift. He'd come over, he'd have a problem, he's got to deal with it, but by the time the meeting was over, you laughed a little bit, you saw it in a little different light, and you felt good about yourself. He's an unusual man in that. That's quite a skill.
I had to learn that goalie thing the harder way. I wasn't around Jimmy, but I was coaching New Jersey, and Marty Brodeur was my goalie. And I remember, I don't know, we were losing or weren't playing well, so I pulled him, and he came up to me after the game and he goes, you know, you can use a timeout once in a while too, instead of just pulling the goalie.
Outstanding. Oh, yeah.
Point taken.
Your Hall of Fame rings are blinding me. Yeah. That's a good piece of advice.
We both married girls from Windsor,
Yeah.
but our wives met basically when we were
coaching when we first started, right?
we were both still just starting dating.
Honestly, if we're not watching hockey, we're watching cooking shows, so this is actually this is actually good that she gets to do this. Right?
We became really good friends and
Still talk to this day.
Yeah,
Kids about the same age. Mine are all about 1 year older, right? We were
Yeah.
about a year ahead of you
yeah,
with everything. We got married a year before you did.
Yeah.
Had the kids a year before you guys did.
yeah.
And now they're all over the place. I got 2 in Florida, 1 in Winnipeg.
Yeah.
Where are yours?
Yeah, one in Toronto, one in Dallas, one in Boston. Yeah, so.
That's a short flight for you guys. Sault Sur. It's not Dunnville. It's not the Sioux.
No.
Good places to grow up, though.
You know what,
like
I-
wonderful place to grow up.
Yeah, I wouldn't trade it. You started at an age that is unheard of, like in pro sports. Like, you know, and people forget that. Your first head coaching job, you're 27?
28.
28 years old. You know, I was the youngest coach in the NHL hired by Florida. I was 40 and didn't feel ready. And you'd already done 12 years. You know,
Yeah.
you're walking into an NHL room at 28. You know, there's guys on the team, how old, 38?
Brad McCrimmon's first year pro, I was in grade 7.
Yeah, and you're coaching
And
them.
I'm
yeah.
coaching them, yeah.
Yeah,
Interesting, because the older guys were always the easiest guys to deal with.
yeah,
Yeah, but that goes back to Jimmy again.
yeah,
The opportunities that I got working for those men are unheard of.
yeah,
Like, think about the courage he had to have. Because I got fired in the media every third week.
Yeah.
Maybe every other week.
yeah.
And he never gave that to me. He never brought the stress and that.
And
You
there
know,
was
like
probably-
the Hartford,
there was-
Carolina, they're trying to build a
There
program
was
like
probably 10 safer names.
every
his list.
week. I know, because they were in the paper.
Yeah.
Every week. Hey, they should fire this bum because here's 10 that can do the job. And you know what, Pete? They probably were right. Like, I was not ready for it. Jimmy, I work with every day, never once made me feel insecure about that. Never ever squeezed me over it and said, hey, you better get it going. He support you every single day. And the day he fired me the first time, go in and he says, I'm going to make a change. And what I said was, good, because I'm tired.
Yeah,
Like I had you know what it's like. You grind every
Yeah.
day. It was 8 years. We weren't a very good team.
yeah, it's a relief.
But
You
that would be the first negative thing possibly that in our relationship, and that I got to fire the guy. I know he hung on as long as he could and agonized about it.
But then he rehired you again.
My phone rings, and it's Jimmy. He said, yeah, I'm going to make a coaching change. And I said, yeah, I figured it was about time you were going to make one. Who's your guy? He goes, can you be here tomorrow?
Yeah,
And I just started laughing. I didn't think he was serious.
Yeah.
The guy was crazy, like
Yeah.
to do that.
yeah,
But he said, no, I'm serious. And it's all the words. He didn't say, I want you. He says, I need you here tomorrow.
yeah,
I'm taking the job.
yeah,
Because he's done so much for it.
yeah. To work as an NHL coach, it's not your first job, it's getting your second job.
Right.
You know, and that guy for me was Lou Lamoriello. Like
Right.
I went to Florida as a young coach in a tough situation, and you know, grinded for 3 years, got fired, and I remember that summer I was off, and you know, that was my kind of crossroads. Like,
Yeah.
you know, am I going to get another chance? And I got one call that summer, and that was Lou Lamoriello.
It's a good call.
Great call.
Yeah.
And you know what? At that time for me, I needed that. It was a perfect timing, perfect guy, perfect job for my second job.
Right.
You know, and if Lou doesn't call and isn't the guy he is and runs the organization he runs and has the structure he has, I probably don't get a third job or a fourth
Right.
job. So, yeah, it's
We both had great incubators, right?
Yeah.
Jimmy ran a great program.
yeah,
Lou Lamoriello's, both of them Hall of Famers.
Yeah.
And we just got lucky.
Yeah.
We got drafted and got lucky.
Yeah.
Then I had great players,
Yeah.
some pretty fine men we've had the opportunity to work with.
Yeah.
I've had more fun in the last year. It's not disrespectful to the other teams. They're just unbelievable.
Yeah.
I think the guys are better. I think they're better humans.
Yeah.
The game's changed and they say, oh, there's no respect anymore. I think the opposite is true.
Yeah.
I think the guys take care of each other on the ice better than they used to. They're off the ice most definitely.
Yeah.
They take care of themselves really well. I think the game is as good as it's ever been. That's certainly since I've been in the league. It's the most exciting. There's the most nights I'm standing behind the bench, pretty fired up about the game that's being played.
Yeah.
Not bored to death. I was responsible for some of the boredom in those early years. Grind, clutch and grab, that was us. Completely conflicted and agonizing. There was no good result in the Dallas-Edmonton series for me last year. I wanted you to win. I couldn't mentally understand. I wanted you, I'm cheering for you, but I don't want to play you. But I didn't want you to lose. It was really mixed emotions and I couldn't get a handle on it.
Yeah. And me watching you win, once we lost it, I wanted you to win so badly. And
Yeah,
I couldn't help myself. I was sending you texts. I see something, I'm sure he sees it, but you know, if I don't send it and he hasn't seen it, I'm not gonna be able to sleep at night if he doesn't
No, I
win.
know.
I'm gonna. So
What, is he blind?
So
What are
screw
you
it. I'm
watching?
gonna send it.
I share them with the coaches. Well, for the first 3 games, we laughed and thought that was nice. And then the next 3, we're grasping at straws. So we're mapping out every text. He's got to be onto something. What a roller coaster. We spent our lifetime doing this so we could send each other identical texts.
You think about the good fortune if we don't get drafted to the Windsor Spitfires at that time. So many things broke the right way.
You're right. Go out and surround yourself with the best people you possibly can, because that's your only chance,
Yeah.
right? Like all the technical stuff, you can learn the game, you can learn all this other stuff, but you need a group of people around you that care about you, because you have to be kind of nurtured early on.
Yeah.
And we were that and then some.
Yeah. No, it's great advice. Great advice.